Today we head out of the Flinders Ranges to a town called Maree, which is the start of the Oonadatta Trek. Leaving the fuel pumps behind there, we made sure we had fuel this time. And the road out of the park was very beautiful. The cloudy day doesn't really show the colors that of the scenery that we saw. We leave the park. We come into a small town called Parachilna, which doesn't have too much there except a few interesting artifacts. And they had a pub there, which happened to be closed to Michelle's disappointment. But as you can see, there's a horse trough outside there, so you know that's out in the country. Now we arrive in Maree, which is the beginning of the Oonadatta Track, as well as the Birdsville Track. And that's where we stayed. It's the only motel room I've ever stayed in without windows. And that's the garden that's out and back. And that's the view we would have had we had windows. So we didn't really miss the windows. And this is where we embarked on the Oonadatta Track.
I'm driving on the Oonadatta Track.
As we head to Williams Creek. That was a common sight along the track. Here we threw caution to the wind and went inside and looked at some of the interesting artifacts that we came along. As you can see, nature's taken over the pilot's seat there. These strange creations covered, several acres. The Oonadatta Track paralleled the Ghan Railway all the way along before the railway was relocated 100 kilometers west due to flooding that sometimes held up the train and stranded it for days at a time, and people would have to go without food and water. And there's South Lake Erie, which is just a very expansive white salt lake, but it was still cool to see anyway. Margaret's Siding is another place that the Ghan train stopped. It also doubled as a telegraph repeater station, and it is actually 5 meters below sea level. And after several bone-jarring hours on the track, we finally made it to William Creek. Small town of about 10 people, and the whole town is owned by one person. The hotel, the pub. It's a very interesting pub that we had dinner at. Complete with poker machines and Art Deco jukebox. And it also had some other interesting things scattered around town. That's a booster rocket from one of the U.S. satellites. It was found in the desert 20 years after it fell. And that's the plane that's going to take us over the Painted Hills. Dunes run northwest to southeast with the prevailing winds. The Painted Hills are on Anna Station, which is the largest property in the world. It's as big as the country of Israel, and formed over 80 million years ago. The desert has eroded the formations to expose the colors of the hills. They were only discovered back in 1996. After flying over the Painted Hills, the pilot landed the plane on what I didn't even consider a runway, but he was a good bush pilot. He was actually born in that area, and he was quite informed on the rock formations and so forth here. So it was a very interesting tour. Next, we were off to the opal town of Kubapidi. As you can see, as we are approaching the town, all the diggings that were there, the miners dig holes and they never fill them back in again. So these piles of dirt are everywhere. This is still kilometers outside of the town of Kubapidi. And this was an overview of part of Kubapidi. We did a tour of a museum that they had there, which was quite interesting, an underground tour of the museum. Next, we headed north again into the Northern Territory to the town of Coolgardie, which is actually only a road stop. call themselves the first and last pub in the Northern Territory. We stayed there the night before moving on to Uluru. And another interesting country pub. They all have their own character. Then just a short day's drive west to Uluru. Here we are approaching Uluru. What an awesome sight it is, even from kilometers away. And we stayed at the Ayers Rock Resort while we were there, which is where we met up with Miranda and Craig. And also David and Lawrence flew in. So that's all for now. We'll see you in the next episode.